Welcome, everyone. This is Jim Spohrer with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. And it's my great pleasure again to have Markus Varg, one of our ISSIP ambassadors and donors, and one of the leaders in the field in the idea of service-dominant architecture. And Markus, you have what I consider to be a brilliant short introduction to service from a design and strategy perspective. And you have this wonderful example of a cup, which is so simple and basic and it communicates so much. I would love it if you could just share with us in the next few minutes, Markus, a little bit of your thinking around this. So with that, I'll ask you to present.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'm happy to be part of your session again. And yeah, really, this is one of the most hot topics in the discussions also with management teams of customers is it product or is it service? Is it product versus service? And I really think it helps to start with the question is a product like a cup, is it input or is it output? And usually companies producing a product like a cup think it's the output and the end of the production story. And coming from the customer usually have another awareness that they are in a context, in a value constellation, like in a coffee. And they ask, what is the coffee I like to drink in the moment? And then they ask for a special cup. That could be an espresso cup or it could be a cappuccino cup like in this. So is it input? Is it output? This discussion usually is the start. And then coming back to the relevance of service and service design, I think it's really helpful to start with the customer and his context and work backwards from the customer needs, from the social or business needs. And that's exactly the glue to ISSIP. Putting social and business needs in the core of thinking and activity. So working backwards from the customer and asking, what are the services a cup is carrying instead of the cup is just a product? And this question goes back to Don Norman. We all know this famous UX designer and his history and his idea to focus not on the product, but on the services the product is rendering is at the core of a lot of discussions in Germany with the management teams. Like the cup is not only a product, but it could be seen as a cup holds services like liquidity. It holds the drink and it keeps the drink warm. And this mind shift, thinking about the services the cup renders and how to combine it into the next as input, the cup as input into the next value constellation. That is the mind shift to turn from a product or goods dominant to the service dominant thinking. And if you ask this flag of Italy is the next small service, maybe remember your last trip to Italy, so that you can really go back to Everett Gummelsn, who said, hey, customers don't buy products usually, which they buy offerings which render services that create value, and activities render services, products render services. And in this way, it's not only the services holding a liquidity and holding it warm or remember it to the last holidays. And activities also in service, like this nice guy producing an excellent cappuccino. And in the same mindset, insurance policy carries also services. And it's always thinking about these services, how can we combine these services to the next best value constellations, value propositions, but from working backwards from the business and social need. And just a short topology of service. I really love the definition of service as application of resources and knowledge, data, products, technologies, activities for the benefit of another actor and oneself. And starting with this definition, it is really service is the basis of social and economic exchange. And going back to Everett Gummelsn with activities render services, things render services, Don Norman, his cup and other examples really made it understandable for a lot of people and manager. And the next great step in this discussions goes back to 2004 and Steve Vargo bringing all these ideas together and offering a coherent way for these thoughts with everything like goods, activities, technologies, and all the other resources and their services integrated by service dominant logic and replaced by service in the singular. And service dominant logic as a process and narrative then for value constellation and co-creation. But fascinating for me is that this process thinking is not the end, but thinking like life is dynamic interaction in networks of relationships. Every interaction, every process creates a surrounding, a context, and it changes the surrounding and the context. And therefore, it's really necessary to think in a system logic. And that's for me is one of the greatest values in service science and the service system thinking, that this thinking and this perspective on service enables to see the dynamic of a process in the next status of the system of services and service system context, and not only in a process, but in interdepending and dynamic and interacting and mutual value creating service systems and responsible actors interconnected by value propositions. So this step from a process of service dominant logic to service systems as structures inspired my life because I put these ideas from Steve Wargo and Jim and
Yeah.
Paul from you together and created then the service dominant architecture, bringing together a design pattern as 5 systems which are recursively organizing processes and structures. Just as a
Thank
structure,
you.
as a building plan, they create the output just by realizing the processes in regard to the structure of the 5 SDA systems. So
Wonderful.
that's the way we build in Germany in the moment in some companies' platforms, and it is really driven by service dominant logic and service science, Jim.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Yeah, I really appreciate this. We're collecting up little short video vignettes like this for the upcoming ISSIP progress call with the board that's on June 25th. And this is just perfect. We want to try to convey from some of the leaders in the community, some of the leading thought leaders such as yourself, just not only their passion for service and service innovation, which I think you've done really well, but it amazes me how much you've packed into just these few slides in terms of rethinking how we design the world around us, right? And one of the things that came through very strongly is when you get the density high enough, the memories that come out of a good service are substantial as well. You know, it's really quite amazing to me that memorable service is, you know, the opportunity to design memorable service that exceeds our expectations is all around us. So this is a journey we're on together, Marcus,
Yeah.
to see service get to higher and higher levels. But let me ask you just one question while we're still recording. So as we improve service, though, expectations continue to rise. So is it a race that you know, what was excellent service in decade X becomes just routine service in decade Y? How do we deal with this, you know, people's expectations increasing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's exactly this, and that's one of the greatest advantage of service thinking and service science is it is always the existing value proposition is always the input for the next better one,
Yeah,
and it will not end, you know, best the AI possibilities in the moment, but that it is to get away from the product or value proposition is still the output. No, it
yeah.
is carrying services, and in the next second, there's a chance to bring other services in the next better value proposition and improve.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I remember, I think it was Pine and Gilmore in their book, The Experience Economy. They said ultimately a good service, transforms you and makes you not only have good memories, but increases your capability for uh, giving and getting service yourself. In other words, like good medical service makes you healthier, and good education service makes you able to contribute more awareness of the world around you. So, as we think about service and the design of service in the future, I think this is just like, we're at the beginning, Marcus. We really
Absolutely.
are at the beginning of really thinking this very, very powerful concept through. So, thank you so much for sharing your video. Any
My
any
pleasure.
last words before I stop the recording?
Thank you. My pleasure to be your guest, Jim.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just stop the recording.